Welcome to Season 4 of Everything is Learning. This season, we're celebrating neurodivergent people, their stories, strengths, challenges, and the powerful ways they learn and live. Because honoring every individual's brain and lived experience makes the world a better place for everybody. We're excited you're here. Let's dive in.
Hello, folks. Welcome back to Everything is Learning. This season, we're highlighting neurodiversity and the voices of people who bring honesty, hope, and heart to the spaces they show up in, whether online, at home, or in their communities. Today's guest, Danae Marable, does exactly that. Danae is a faith-led content creator, autism advocate, speaker, and devoted mother who shares her journey through life as a neurodivergent woman with honesty and compassion. Diagnosed with autism as an adult, Danae uses her story to shed light on the often overlooked experiences of autistic women, especially those navigating motherhood and spirituality. Through her growing platforms on Instagram, TikTok, and the Faith-Filled Mom podcast, Danae encourages others to embrace faith over fear, reminding her audience that God is not done with you yet. Her work is filled with gentle wisdom, powerful testimony, and a deep belief that grace and growth can coexist, even in hard moments. Danae holds space for others to feel seen and supported, especially those who are deconstructing old narratives and rebuilding a life rooted in authenticity and faith. Wow. Whether she's offering a word of encouragement, unpacking the realities of sensory overload, or reminding fellow moms that you don't have to have it all together, her voice is one of both conviction and calm. With each post, prayer, and podcast episode, Danae is helping to reframe what it means to be autistic, faithful, and fully human. Welcome to the show, Danae. Thanks so much for being here.
First of all, well, thank you so much for having me on and just highlighting neurodiversity. Thank you for that. And thank you for that intro. That was so nice. That was so amazing.
I'm glad. You advocate others, and I've seen it and watched it and listened to it. So it's awesome that we can do this for you. And we're so excited that you were willing to speak with us today, because what you have to say is so impactful. And as I said right before we started recording, given the current climate, everything that you talk about is really helpful and humbling for me. Like it just reassures me in my low moments, especially as a mom. Even though I am not myself neurodivergent, I have a neurodivergent son. I actually think both of my children are, just one is officially diagnosed and one is not yet. But it's really, really helpful because I just sometimes feel lost in the noise and the drone, and I try and avoid doom scrolling. So when I get to stumble upon positive posts like yours, it's very, very humbling. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Yeah, we love your content. I think some of my favorite posts are just like reminders to breathe and reminders to just take a mindful moment. I love getting to threads and like scrolling, and then all of a sudden I see your post and I'm like, yep, that's it. And your vulnerability, your honesty, your transparency with how learning can be really challenging and unlearning can be really challenging, and just putting your best foot forward, very inspiring. So thank you again for being here.
You also used your faith. I'm sorry to interrupt. You also use your faith not to tear people down, but to build people up.
Yeah.
And that is seriously
that's
the
the
biggest
whole
blessing.
point.
Well, I wish everyone saw it like that.
It's like I'm like, that is the whole point of faith. It's to encourage and it's to inspire, and it gives us something to have hope in, and we can share that with others. So that's definitely a pet peeve of mine. When I see it used in a way to like promote shame, because that's not what it's here. That's not what our faith is for.
Well, as someone who is a third-party observer, user, listener, that message is well received with me. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, to get started, we usually ask an icebreaker question. So this was the one that we came up with for you. If you could have dinner with any woman in the Bible, who would it be and why?
It would hands down be Mary, the mother of Jesus, because I have so many questions for her. Like what? I have so many questions. Like what was that like? And we see a little bit of that dialogue in the Bible, but like what did that feel like for her to hear like, oh yeah, you're gonna be pregnant. But yes, no, you're still gonna be a virgin. But yes, you are gonna be pregnant. And by the way, it's gonna be the Messiah. And like, by the way, like what type of mental gymnastics did
Mm.
she have to do? And like she received it, you know? And I just want to know like what was it like in the toddler years? With
That's
Jesus. What was
that's the
it
one.
like? Yes, like
That's the one.
what was that like? I'm just so curious. What was that like? What was it like when he was going through puberty? Like like I have so many questions for her, and I would love to know how she was able to navigate all of that because she's a mom, right? She was a mom, but her son was also our Messiah. Like
Hmm.
I would just love to know what that journey was like for her. I have so many questions.
Yeah, I love
I,
the curiosity that you have surrounding
Yeah.
that. Because like
well,
Yeah.
the puberty and the toddler years, I'm like, gosh, you just imagine Mary from what biblical text describes her
Yeah.
as somebody who is like calm and just says like yes and is
Yeah.
pleasing to God and all of these things. So to think about Jesus potentially having a meltdown, um, and like how Mary
How
handled it,
like
like how do you
what was
handle it? Are
that
you just
like?
like, okay, like the Messiah, he's the Messiah,
Right.
let him
Yes.
have the toy? Like I don't
Yes.
know.
I have so many questions just regarding what that journey was like because she was human. You
Right?
know, she was a person. I just yeah, I'm just full of curiosity.
Yeah, I love that.
for me too. I'm too type A. I'd be like, well, how's this gonna go? And like
Yeah.
plan it all out, right?
Yep.
And
I would
the
need to know dates,
gravity. Yeah, right.
times,
Exactly.
like
Yeah. Like, was
yes.
he flipping
Yeah.
tables when he was 8? Who knows? It
Right.
wasn't that one
Like I
time in the marketplace.
yeah, right. I again, I think it would just be me honestly asking questions, but I think it would be a lot of me just sitting there and like just taking it in and being like, whoa, like just her imparting that wisdom. And yeah, that would
Yeah.
definitely be the person.
I, I am not the. God knew when He chose wisely because I'm not the one, the two, the three. I'm probably down like 5 millionth in line because I know that in this
5 million.
conversation she's like, okay, thy will be done, and I'm like, don't go yet.
I have a few more questions. Yeah,
Yeah, right.
You know, I,
I need some more clarity.
I I listened to an excerpt when I was scrolling the other day recently, and I can't even remember. I know it was on the Joe Rogan show. I know that he was interviewing somebody, and had brought up who was your favorite person in the Bible, and this person, I cannot remember his name right now, is a up and coming politician, young guy, and he said, I think one of the most important messages, Mary is my favorite person in the Bible, he said. And he said, one of my most important messages is God asked for consent. And
That's
consent
good.
from
Wow.
Mary was so important for God to have asked her consent to say, right? Isn't that
Yeah.
mind blowing in the world that we live in
Yeah.
right now? God thought
Yeah.
consent was above her having the Messiah. It was, do you consent to this thing happening to you? Right? Mind blow. Mind blow. But what another, like, that would be such another piece of this, too, to say,
Definitely.
like, God thought so highly of you to also ask you for consent. He didn't just put you in
Yeah.
that position. Like, so
Yeah.
anyway, thinking about thinking and curiosity. I thought that was
Wow.
really interesting. We'll have to post the clip on our Instagram page so that people can
Yeah.
connect with that a bit. It was a really interesting
Wow.
conversation. But speaking of stories, what
Yes.
stories about neurodivergent people do you think need more visibility, and how can storytelling and including the joy and nuance, how can that help reshape public understanding of neurodivergence, in your opinion?
I think for whatever reason, first of all, there's a shame narrative around being neurodivergent that needs to be addressed. And I think also the whole story around the fact that neurodivergents are difficult, when really I think most of us, specifically for me as a late diagnosed individual, most of us have been waiting our whole lives just to be ourselves. And
Oh,
we're not,
yeah.
we're not trying to actually be difficult. We're actually trying to be who we are. And we're trying to put that out there in the world in a way that honors the way that our brains work. And that is what people see as difficult. And it's like, well, wait a minute. Like, we need to change the narrative around that because we're actually not trying to be difficult. I cannot tell you how many times I have specifically gotten the feedback of like that I am difficult because I ask questions and or like I challenge authority because I ask questions. And it's like that whole story of just neurodivergence being difficult because we process information differently. It needs to be done away with because the way that we process information, it just honors the way that we process information. Like we're just trying to be ourselves. And so I think the shame narrative absolutely needs to go away. The whole thing that there is something wrong with being neurodivergent or that it is a problem to be fixed or like it needs to be solved, that needs to go away. Um, and I think also the fact that we can't achieve things, that whole story, it needs to go away. One, I think that is so layered because we need to we need to reframe what we think of as an achievement. Number one, I think that's one of the huge problems. Um, but we do accomplish things. We accomplish great things, but who is to say what a great achievement is or not? And so I think those stories just surrounding neurodiversity need to go away. And I think it needs to be amplified that number one, there is nothing actually wrong. It doesn't need to be like solved or fixed. That we're not difficult and we're just trying to honor the way that our brains process information. And I think it needs to also be amplified that yes, we actually do achieve great things every day. We
Heck yeah.
achieve great things in our homes. We achieve great things like out in the world. We do actually achieve great things. I think those are the stories that need to be done away with. And those are also the latter ones. They need to be amplified, I think, in our world.
I wish I could have snapped and applauded everything you just said the whole time
Everything.
because that was so well thought through and well answered.
And honest.
It,
It's truth.
absolutely.
It's all truth.
But the whole notion of you're not trying to give anybody a hard time, you're just being yourself.
Yeah.
For the people in the back, neurodiversity. People are not trying to be
Yes.
difficult. They are being themselves.
Yeah. I mean, that has been such a consistent, I'm entrepreneur now. So I work for
Congratulations.
myself, but when I worked for other people, that would be a consistent piece of feedback that I got. And I'm not saying that like I'm just perfect and I never have a temper and but I know that I always try to lead with like respect. And I usually don't lead with like, oh, I'm just gonna wake up being difficult today. Like that's not how I lead. Like when I think about who do I want to be today in the world, like that's not what I'm thinking. And I think that most neurodivergents, they don't wake up with that either because we are too busy like with the things that we have going on within
So
our
true.
bodies and dealing with transitions and dealing with sensory input and trying to prove that we do belong in this world. Like the last thing that we're thinking about is like, you know what? I just want to be difficult with someone today. Like I just don't think that that's what most of us try to do when we're interacting with people.
For
The
sure.
fact that you are even in a place today where you have to use the words deal with, and that's the
Yeah.
narrative that society has put on you, that is exactly why it's society's fault for putting any neurodivergent person in that place where they have to fight for
Yeah.
who they are in their existence. And
Yeah.
the fact that you are speaking out to these things, the fact that you are explaining all of these things that society needs to unlearn, and you're amplifying that message for people, it is so vital and important and inspiring. It really is inspiring. And the way that you explained it is so easy for someone to understand and say, and also think, like, think through what you
Yeah.
said, like, deal with. No person on earth should feel like they are being dealt with. No person on
Yeah.
earth should feel that they are difficult if they are being themselves and not harming other people. And I think that's the piece
Yeah.
nowadays, is that everybody just automatically assumes that somebody is being difficult, being harmful, trying to
Yeah.
start things, especially on social media.
Hmm.
And I also think there are pieces of this that are really hard to unpack for people because there are other layers. Like you talked
Yeah.
about questioning, and when you talked about how when you question things, people kind of push back.
Hmm.
Marissa, Marissa and I did our master's degrees together. She's a year older than I am. And
Hmm.
when we were in classes, Marissa always asked questions. And because
Yeah.
Marissa is a female, it was not seen the same way as when a male would ask a question.
Hmm.
So there's that.
Yeah.
And then on top
Yeah.
of that, we have people like you or Callie, who is Black Spectrum Scholar, talking about how it is to be a Black woman who is
Yeah.
neurodivergent. And then you're adding another layer of nuance, another layer of,
Yeah.
intersectionality to that. And to
Hmm.
add all of those pieces and to do it with such grace, Danae, that is what sets you completely apart from everyone.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for all that you're doing.
Well,
Um,
and everything your message just stated reinforced something that I had heard or read a long time ago, which was people aren't giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time.
Oh,
And if we
yes.
just took a moment to like reframe or seek understanding instead of
Yeah.
jumping to a conclusion, and the way you phrased it was so easy to understand, and
yes.
it didn't, not that the phrase someone's not trying to give you a hard time, they're having a hard time, it's concise, but like actually seeing how it might play out as a lived experience. I appreciate what you
Yeah.
said because it helped me reframe something I had read such a long time ago or heard such a long time ago in a way that is now tangible for me. So I
Yeah.
appreciate that. And Elena was referencing this, like you're using your lived experience. And so my question to you is from your lived experience,
Hmm.
something that you have been very transparent about and is deeply appreciated. How has your sobriety helped being
Yeah.
AUDHD? So, and if you don't mind explaining what that is for our listeners, I'd appreciate it.
Yes. So AUDHD, autism, and ADHD. And I also have OCD as well, but they don't have an acronym
Oh,
for that yet.
yeah, it's a lot of letters, huh?
But yeah, so that's what it stands for. It's kind of that combination of both of those experiences. And my sobriety journey has played such a large role in, I mean, before I was diagnosed and also afterwards. So, I would say that when I was in middle school, like I had this awareness that I experienced this world differently.
Hmm.
I couldn't articulate it. I didn't really know how, but I guess maybe just always being an observer, like I just knew that from like social interactions would absolutely wear me out and drain me. And it seems like everybody was able to navigate social interactions except for me. Like I couldn't figure out. I was like, how do you crack the code? Like I don't get it. Looking people in the eye has never felt natural for me. And I was always told, like, you need to look people in the eye. You look like, what are you looking at? Look people in the eye. I have always taken things extremely, I'm a very, very literal thinker. And like that is how I process information. And I think that's one of the reasons why I ask so many questions, because whenever I receive information, my brain was like, well, it could be scenario A, B, C, D, like which one, which one do they want? And so like I didn't see anybody else like kind of play that out. I always loved to rock myself back and forth. Nobody ever told me to stop, but I didn't see anybody else doing it either. So I was like, okay,
That's
it's just
interesting.
me. Like I don't know. And so I had this awareness. I was absolutely bullied in middle school and high school for being like a quote unquote having, I guess, airhead moments is what they would call them. And I think all of this just because I asked a lot of questions and because I didn't know when people were joking, like I thought they were always serious. And so I think it kind of translated to just looking at myself and having a very low opinion of who I was because I was different. And I couldn't, no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't be like everybody else. And so I got to college and I discovered alcohol and I was like, oh, this has made everything so much easier. Like I don't like social interactions are easy. I didn't realize it then. I know it now, but I was basically using alcohol to like suppress being in like autism burnout shutdowns. Like
Oh
I
wow.
had no idea at the time, but like at the end of the day, like it was just an easy fix. I didn't know how to take care of myself as a neurodivergent individual. And so like I wasn't stimming, like I wasn't advocating for myself. I wasn't doing any of those things. And so alcohol was just the easy answer. And I kind of carried that through uh, college. I carried that through after like graduation, trying to be an adult and navigate this world. And I kind of continued that until 2023. And to kind of back up, I was first kind of diagnosed with autism when I was 28. And so I ignored that because because at the time it felt so overwhelming. I was like, I don't know how to deal with this. Like nobody then was really talking about adult autism, especially not female autism. Like I didn't see anybody in
Yeah.
movies or shows that kind of looked like
Yeah.
me, let alone a person of color. And so it felt so overwhelming. I just had our son too, so I think I was overwhelmed. Like I had
Oh
PPD,
man.
PPA. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to continue to drink and I'm just going to act like this never happened. Um, throughout that whole time, I heard God telling me, Danae, let me be your peace. Like, let the alcohol go. Let me be your peace. And I ignored it. I ignored it until 2023. I just was like, I'm just done with alcohol. Like, it's not fun anymore. I remember feeling like I was a slave to it. Like I couldn't I couldn't cut back. I tried that thing where you only drink on the weekdays, not or the weekends, not weekdays. Like I tried all of these tricks and I just couldn't stop drinking. And so I was like, okay, God, like I think I'm gonna take you up on this. And I knew I needed to do something radical. And so I went to AA and like it changed everything because when I was sober, since I've been sober, like in that beginning period, it made me have to confront being autistic. And then I got a diagnosis that same year for ADHD and OCD. Like it kind of forced me to start learning how to advocate for myself, learning more about me and my neurodivergent experience. And
Oh,
it plays such a huge role in, I mean, before a diagnosis, afterwards, now, like sobriety is the thing that has really helped me understand that like I'm always learning and that's okay. And that has helped me take care of myself because there are so many times when I want to be hard on myself or harsh and be like, oh, why did I, push myself over my capacity? Like I knew I was doing too much. And I would be like, Danae, this is a learning moment. Like, shame, blaming like all of that. It's not a helpful tool right now. What is going to be helpful is looking at like taking care of myself as somebody who is a neurodivergent, as like I have to be a student of being autistic, of having ADHD,
Wow.
of being OCD. And so Brian taught me all of that, and it's played such a huge role in my neurodivergence.
Wow. Thank you for
Wow.
sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Can I also ask, because I know that there was a mix of when you were versus weren't sober, what prompted you to get tested for autism or ADHD or OCD in the first place? Like, was there a trigger moment, or did something happen that led you down this journey?
Yeah, so my therapist, she was the one who brought it up to me.
Okay.
Um, like she was like, "Have you ever thought that you might be autistic?" And I was like, "I mean, kind of, but I shared with her, I was like, I don't see, like I don't really l- like have that same experience as the people on TV. So I was like,
Ah,
how could I be like I've always known there was something different about me, yes, but I haven't really known what. So she's the one who prompted that.
okay.
And it's kind of the same thing too with ADHD and OCD. When I had become sober, we had also kind of like recently moved. And so I was like, oh, I think I need to see a therapist. And so I was just kind of talking to her about it. And she was like, so have you ever, explored that you might have ADHD to OCD? And I was like, no, because it doesn't look like that on TV. Like
Yeah.
when you see somebody who has ADHD, they usually do not look like me. They're usually like hyperactive, like bouncing all over the place. OCD, it's that comical version of somebody like cleaning things and wiping things. And I was like, that's just not my experience. So they kind of, I'm really blessed to have had to encounter them because they were open-minded and they brought it to me in a very like, we're just exploring things. Like, have you ever thought of it? So it was them. They were the ones who prompted that.
Okay. That's awesome. And I love that you speak so openly about therapy. I am in therapy. Elena, I hope you don't mind me sharing. Elena's
Never.
in therapy.
I
And
love
I
therapy.
hope if there are any
Yeah,
therapists
therapy is
listening, like,
awesome.
it really is. And it helps me sort through because I know I'm an external processor. But, it gives like learning mentors as therapists. That's such a pivotal moment because they're helping you untangle things or potentially even helping you see things or
Yeah.
talk through things that you may not have considered. And that has really
Yeah.
helped me. Like, this is totally unrelated to your topic, but recently I have a big pain point for me because we were talking earlier about someone's having a hard time, not trying to give you a hard time, right? My
Hmm.
son loves Cool Whip. This is a new thing. And he'll open he is very independent and he'll open up the fridge or the freezer which beeps at me. And now I don't necessarily know that I'm diagnosed with anything, or I'm not diagnosed with anything. I don't know if I have
Hmm.
anything, but I am so triggered by the beeping from our refrigerator, and so my therapist was like, when that happens, stick your hands under cool water and like learn to be
Yeah.
present in that moment and calm yourself down and realize like this is his way of telling you he needs something because as we had discussed earlier, my son is non-speaking. It
Hmm.
has helped me so tremendously because I never would have thought to do those things. And so I'm so
Yeah.
glad, like, a therapist does really have a lot of influence in helping you see
Hmm.
beyond your own perspective. So thank you for sharing that. And wow, I mean, good on you because you had to make so many changes later in life that's really hard. When you get ingrained in a routine,
Yeah.
whew, it's really hard to break some of those habits. So good on
Yeah.
you. And then for trusting in God, like that you were hearing this message and then, yep, okay, take the wheel, right? Like,
Yeah.
thy will be done. There we go.
Yeah.
It's amazing. And it really touches on the next question, which is faith.
Hmm.
So, how does faith
Hmm.
help you and others you connected with navigate being neurodivergent in today's society?
Yeah, so I grew up in church. I've always kind of been in church. I think that later on in life, I have a much more personal relationship with God now. I don't know why, but when I was younger, I always thought that God was like mad at me. I
Oh,
always thought, I think I just kind of just internalized. It was a whole lot of like, I think I'm wrong because I'm different. And so I guess like God must be mad at me and like just trying to navigate all of that young without the vocabulary of, oh, I'm not actually made wrong. I'm made in his image and he made me autistic. Like I didn't, I didn't have that vocabulary then, and so that was really tough. But I've always been in church. I think definitely in my late like 20s and 30s, I've just known God to be just such a faithful, close, I don't know, just kind and compassionate God. Like I don't know him as somebody who is mad at us. Like even when we make mistakes, he might not like everything that we do in terms of like sinning, but us, his creation, like he looks at us and the Bible says that we were fearfully and wonderfully made. That means that God had a sense of awe when he was creating that, when he was creating us. And that just blows my mind because it's like you're talking about the person, God, the presence, who knows how many stars are in the space. Like he knows how many grains of sand there are. Like he knows how many like hairs,
Hairs
strands of
on our
hairs,
head.
hairs that we have. Yes, on our head. And we're talking about this amazing, magnificent God had awe when he was creating us. Like that's who I know him as. I know God as being with me when I'm in autism burnout, when it feels like the world is just passing me by. I absolutely know God as being close and present with me when I um, have experienced depression and battled anxiety. Like God is not sitting there like shaming me, like, oh, you should have had more faith, and oh, if you pray hard enough, it'll go. Like He's like, I want to help you through this. We're gonna get through this together. Um, God is that's how I know God, and I mean, I know earlier when I was younger, I knew God and I knew of him, but now it's like I have that personal relationship with him because he's been with me in so many situations, low situations, situations where I didn't like myself, situations where I didn't know how to navigate. And it's like you still have this very present, loving presence, and it's just helped me navigate. He has helped me navigate so much of neurodiversity, and he has affirmed that he created me intentionally, that I'm not like a broken version of some of his creations. Like he intentionally created me to be someone who has autism, ADHD, and OCD, that I'm not on accident, that it's not a quote unquote spirit as I have been told before. He has affirmed me that I am his child.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
hope everyone knows that about themselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that I try to post as often as I can because there is that shame narrative around neurodiversity, that we're made wrong or that we need to be fixed. And it's like, well, if we're going to truly quote the Bible and if we're going to truly believe in what it says, we do not have the authority to say who it applies to and who it doesn't. So there are no asterisks by like I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. There are no asterisks by you knit me together in my mother's womb. Like if we are going to quote those scriptures and believe them as we should, we we can't pick and choose who they apply to and who they don't apply to. And that's because it's God's word. It's we don't have the authority to change it, to change its meaning. Like it is God's word and it says just that. And so it bothers me to no end whenever. And I do get comments like this of people saying, "Oh, well, what about this verse in the Bible? It looks like Jesus is healing someone who has autism." Da 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 da. And I'm like, okay, we can infer when it comes to the Bible. Like we cannot add meaning to it here or there, wherever it suits our argument. That is not what Scripture is for. And so whenever I get messages of people being like, well, my family member told me if I had just had enough faith that I could be delivered from autism, or so and so, I've been told that it's a spirit. I've been told that I need to denounce being autistic, having ADHD and OCD. And it's like, okay, y'all. Like that's not what scripture is there for.
That sounds like
Yeah.
I, I can't even imagine.
I have no words. I know. I know.
I don't even know how to
I
describe
know.
all the feelings that I feel when I hear that. That's wild
And I
and
mean, that's
horrible.
why, like, I try to, I really try to let that be a consistent message, that I
Be
post and
affirming.
create, because I'm like, no, like I can't have people like thinking, because I know what that feels like. I know what that feels like when you just think that you were wrong. And then if you don't know any better, you just carry that with you. And then it kind of it spirals out into everything that you do. It spirals out into the relationships that you allow into your life. And it's such a harmful and hurtful message, and that's just not what God is about. That's not what the gospel is about. That's not what scripture is about. That's not what faith is about at all.
Yeah. I it's interesting. A lot of what you're talking about, it sounds like you've done a lot of work on setting boundaries.
Yes.
And I know that wasn't something that
And
we had thought about talking about, but it is something that Marissa and I talk about a lot. And I just,
Tons.
hearing you and the way that you have intentionally created your life and recreated and reframed and unlearned and
mm,
relearned, it sounds like a ton of work. And it also sounds like you have become a pro at setting boundaries. How does that work as a neurodivergent person?
man, I think it is it has been tough. Like, I think that's one of the first things that I had to learn about setting boundaries. It's like, you see it on Pinterest, like it's a Pinteresty word, it's pretty, but the process of setting boundaries is actually, it can be really messy. And there will be times when you set boundaries and you just cry, because the reaction from the other person is not, and I have to remind myself, like, when I set boundaries, agreeability is not the goal.
Oh,
The goal
wow.
is for me to, like, advocate and show up for myself. Like, that's the goal. Agreeability is not. I think a lot of neurodivergence, especially later diagnosed, we have a lot of people pleasing tendencies. We've diminished our neurodivergent needs, like tending to them. So we've masked a lot for the comfort of other people. And so when you start to unmask, you also learn that part of that process is setting boundaries. And that's something that sobriety taught me too. It's not, it's like I like it just held up a mirror for all of that. And so I was kind of learning, like, it happened at the same time as I started to take care of myself as a neurodivergent person. Then I started to also have to set boundaries because of sobriety. But then I was finding that I was also needing to set boundaries for the fact that I'm neurodivergent. Telling family members ahead of time, like, hey, so when you stay with us, like, 4 days is the max, because it is extremely dysregulating for me to have other people, like, in my space and, like, disrupt my routine. And I need to sit in my spot on the couch and, like, like, there are some things that need to happen for me to not be an autism burnout, so I can show up for myself, show up for my husband, show up for our son, also show up in what I feel I was created to do. And so if I'm dysregulated all the time, like, it's a ripple effect. So hey, just so you know, like, this is gonna happen. This can no longer happen. I know I used to do this, but it's going to be different now because it's kind of what serves me. And I have absolutely gotten a lot of pushback. Um, and it's something that I've had to learn not to internalize. Like it's a you problem, like it's not actually me. That is the problem here. It is a you problem. And I've tried to also give people grace in the fact that just as I am a student of my neurodivergence, they're also a student too. So I've tried to give that grace to them as I am learning, they are as well. Um, but yet that boundary is still going to be in place. Like I know that you're learning, but take your time with that as you need it. But hey, this is going to happen. I have family members that I don't talk like about like autism, ADHD, OC. I've just told them like straight up like, hey, we're not going to be able to talk about this anymore because every time we talk about it, we argue, and it's not like getting anywhere. It's not productive. So this is a topic that will no longer be something that we're able to discuss. I've had to set boundaries, and I will continue to do so because again, it's a ripple effect. I've said this before, it is such a big ask to ask neurodivergent individuals, hey, can you stop doing that thing that is gonna like not make you dysregulated? Like, hey, I know this is helping you, but can you actually stop doing that? Like that is such the audacity to ask, people to not stim, or the audacity to have an attitude when somebody asks, like, hey, can you please turn that down? Like, can you please turn that down? And like you always have an attitude when someone asks that. That's that's a big ask because essentially what you're doing is you're asking that neurodivergent person to stop honoring the way that their brain processes information. So I've absolutely had to learn uncomfortably, and it probably will always be uncomfortable. I think setting boundaries is uncomfortable. I don't know where that narrative came from that it's going to be ever be comfortable. But that is just not my experience with it.
Yeah.
Something that you, as you were talking about, that I think I would like other people to know or remember too, is when you're setting up a boundary. A lot of people, I will say, comments I have read
Mhm.
have indicated that people often see boundaries as selfish, but in reality, they are the most unselfish thing you can do. Because if you
Yeah.
want someone to show up still in your life,
Yeah.
this is
Yes.
their best way, best
Yep.
chance, best hope, best success of you and them being able to continue associating and having a relationship with
Yeah.
one another. And I wish more
Yeah.
people saw it that way. But the fact that you had said the goal isn't agreeability for the people in the back. Setting a
Yeah.
boundary is not about agreeability. It's about how
Yeah.
you can be your best self and they can be them their best self, and you both still have a relationship.
A healthy
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah.
Well said. Yes.
And I think a couple other things that, we've learned in unpacking boundaries too is there's boundaries is a stigmatized word.
Mm-hmm.
We've even gone back and like historically looked up the word boundaries and have talked about like when people who are older, like a generation or two older than us, they think about boundaries in terms of like lines when it comes to land,
Mm-hmm.
right? So you
Mm-hmm.
hear a boundary, this is my property, this is
Mm-hmm.
mine, right? So
Yep.
when you hear someone say boundary, oftentimes when an older person hears that word, they're going to think of it as something threatening,
Yeah.
and that you're trying to push them out. When
Mm-hmm.
really a boundary is to say, this is who I am, this is our relationship, this is how I can invite you in, but it's a
Yeah.
door, and the door is open for you to choose to come in or to close. Um,
Yeah.
and the door's there whenever you want to open it. But I think that so we had Sienna McAllister on last season, and they go by Sienna Stims online,
Mm-hmm.
and they talked about neurodiversity with nuance. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that as you continue to explain even just boundary setting and the nuance for neurodivergent people to navigate a
Mm-hmm.
boundary, I am exhausted by the emotions that you had to have carried to do those things. Like, I'm
Yeah.
exhausted for you. I'm not exhausted by it. I am
Yeah.
exhausted for you. And I just
Yeah.
wonder for neurotypical people, by the way, I don't really love that word, but I understand that that is a
Yeah.
way to like kind of say that I'm not neurodivergent.
Hmm.
Um, but for neurotypical people, how can we be an ally to support autistic, ADHD,
Hmm.
AUDHD people, people with OCD,
Hmm.
neurodivergent people? How can neurotypical people support neurodivergent people as they are setting up boundaries or having to navigate
Yeah.
these challenges in life?
I think one of the first ways to really be an ally is to listen, um, and just listen. Not listen to like respond, not listen to judge, not listen to be like, are you sure? Like, are you sure that's your experience? Like really listen to someone's experience and just take it in. Um, that is actually a pretty big step because I think a lot of us neurodivergents, we are used to having to like go to war, like battle for ourselves and like we're used to having to argue to try to take up a small space so that we can show up and be ourselves. And so just having somebody listen um is actually a big help. Once you're listening, you're taking in that information, I think questioning yourself and seeing if you have any like ableist ways about you. Because I think a lot of times what happens is we just assume, oh, I'm not an ableist. Oh, I'm not racist. Like I don't do that. I saw what somebody else did. I don't do that. But we don't like look at the mirror, like we don't try to see like, oh my gosh, do I have any of those tendencies? Because you can listen all you want to. You can show up at different marches and you can support, different bills and stuff. But at the end of the day, if you're still going out into the world and being ableist, then you're part of the problem. And so I think it's kind of asking yourself, like, whenever someone asks me to turn the TV down, or whenever I see somebody stimming in public, do I give them a weird look? Like just kind of asking yourself those questions. I think that is really helpful as well. So I think another way to be an ally, to truly be an ally, is definitely to listen, just to listen, just to take it in, and then to try to hold that mirror up to yourself and see if you have any ableist ways, because I think a lot of people would assume, that they don't, but it's at the end of the day, like if you still support, neurodiversity and businesses and organizations, but yet you actually do have ableist ways about you and you're bringing them into the world, then you become a part of the problem. And so I think just holding up that mirror and asking yourself, like, how do I respond when I see someone stimming in public? How do I respond whenever I hear someone talking about their neurodivergence, like their experience? Like, how do I actually respond to that? And just explore that because I think how you respond, it kind of holds the key to your answer. And just allowing yourself to truly be vulnerable, and because that's a very like vulnerable space to be in, um, that is going to go such a long way because I also think that's part of the problem is that people, they say they're allies, but yet throughout their daily lives, like they still have ableist ways about them. And so it's the type of thing that needs to be confronted if you want to make a change, if you want to be an ally, that has to be addressed.
Yeah. Danae,
Awesome.
offline, can we make like an ableist checklist that people can kind of like check in with themselves? Would
Ooh,
that be something that we could like post this
yeah.
this session? Because I think that would be
Yes.
really really wonderful to be able like for even for Marissa and I like we are part of the neurodivergent community in terms of how
Hmm.
we advocate for our loved ones in our lives and our work that we do and things like that, but we are neurotypical and The
Yeah.
last thing we want to do is be part of the problem, but sometimes like we only know what we know and can only go so
Yeah.
far. So that would be
Yeah.
something really cool to co-collaborate on. So
Yes,
Oh, yes.
love that
that'd be
idea. That's
cool.
brilliant. And it
Absolutely.
also plays
That's
into
awesome.
the, we had a guest on who they planned, they plan for and support families of people who are neurodivergent when they travel. And we
Hmm.
had joked about playing, and not joked, but in reality, I've already started doing this, but spot the inclusion. So it's like,
Hmm.
spot the ableism or
Yeah.
spot the
Yeah.
inclusion almost. So I kind of love this and love this
I love
idea.
that.
So
Yeah.
awesome, awesome.
What are
Absolutely.
some unique strengths and perspectives you associate with neurodivergent minds, and how do you think society could better recognize and support them?
I think one of the strengths whenever I talk to other like neurodivergent individuals is just that we tend to look at things differently. And I think just that skill of I don't know if it's called like abstract thinking or I don't know what exactly it's called, but just having the ability to be able to like receive the same information as as other people, but to approach it in a different way. I mean, that is such a great skill to have towards, I mean, problem solving, towards trying to create just a better world for people to live in, policies. Like that is such a great skill that neurodivergent individuals have. And I think one of the best ways to highlight that is to not assume that we're trying to be difficult when when
Yes,
we ask
yes.
information. Um, I think that's one of the best ways that you can support that and not shut it down. Because when you assume somebody's trying to be difficult, it kind of it's not really a great motivator to work and to and to approach problems. And so just thinking, okay, well, this person clearly approaches information differently. I'm gonna let them run away with this and see what they come up with. It might not be what you want, that is true. It could also be something that is so much greater than what you envisioned, but you're not going to know if you just assume, oh, here they go again, just trying to be difficult. They're trying to challenge my authority. It's not going to happen when you do that. A lot of neurodivergent individuals, including myself, uh, that I have spoken with, we kind of feel that we are like sensitive, very, very compassionate in that way,
Mm.
and I think that's interesting because there's a narrative that like we're not, that we don't have any emotions or that we we are like robots. And I am definitely not trying to speak for all neurodivergent experiences because I know they can vary. But I've spoken with a lot of neurodivergent individuals who are like, I am a very like sensitive person. And I'm like, what a great gift. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what a great gift
Well said.
that we can give to the world. I have always been told, Danae, like, stop being sensitive. Please, like, you are so sensitive. Like, I need just stop. I have always been told that I need to, like, kind of harden. And it's like, I'm just being me. And I think that is such a great gift to give into the world. I think if you do have, a neurodivergent individual in your life, or if you have an interaction and you notice that in them, don't be like, oh, you're being sensitive, like you need to lighten up. Like, what would that look like for you to affirm that, or for you to be like, wow, that's such a great way to, to look at that problem. I thank you for being compassionate about that.
Yes.
What would that look like? I think those are some of the traits that I so wished were were highlighted whenever we talk about it. And I said it earlier, is that just the fact that we're not difficult intentionally most of the time, like we just want to be ourselves. Like I said, for me, like when in 2023, taking care of myself as a neurodivergent individual, like learning at first was extremely difficult, just that process and how to do it. And then I started to realize that like this, it is actually supposed to be a learning experience. And it doesn't, it's, I have the right to speak up for myself or to advocate for myself. And if somebody thinks that I am being difficult, then, that is a them thing. But that's a journey that I went on to kind of get through that. And I just wish that having that awareness that most of us don't want to be difficult. We're just trying to be ourselves. Where we've waited a long time to know that it's actually okay to be ourselves, to not like diminish or dismiss neurodivergent needs. I wish those traits were definitely amplified more.
That actually, I mean, it's probably going to be reiterated in this next message, but I'm curious to know. So, if you could change the world to make things more inclusive, specifically for neurodivergent people, what would you choose to do?
Ugh. I think definitely immediately I think of the classroom,
Hmm.
and just how unrealistic it is that you have, 30 kids in the class and that everybody is going to learn the same way. That's so, that's so unrealistic. And again, it's such a big ask to ask that student who has ADHD, hey, can you focus, please? Like, I'm trying. I'm actually trying. Like what would it look like for classrooms to like for that to kind of be the norm, or to have like fidgets in the classroom for kids to be using? What would it look like for classrooms to have like those I don't know the exact name of it, but it's like a swing set, like for you to get like sensory input,
Oh,
but
yeah.
just like things like that in the classroom. They, shouldn't have to go to another classroom to get like what would it look like in our main classrooms for
Hmm.
those things to be available? I
It would
think
look
that,
amazing, is what it would look like.
yeah, and I'm like, how amazing would that be? Because it does so many things. It also lets kids know, like, oh, I'm not wrong. I'm just made a little bit different. But I'm still in the same class. Like, I just think that's probably one of the first things that I would want to do is to like cater to that learning environment. Because we preach, oh, neurodivergent individuals, they don't achieve da 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 da. Da. But are you helping us even achieve anything?
Hmm.
Like by your standards, like are you even helping? Like that's how are you assisting in that educational process? Let alone achievements are not just educational, but like how are we actually helping them achieve? How are we actually doing that? That would probably be one of the first things that I do.
How are you assisting with that process? I love that so much. I'd like to use that question. I'm going to take this question
And apply
and
it
Yeah,
apply it in a few
everywhere.
different places. Yeah. Good,
Yeah.
good, great
yeah.
call. But yes, no, that's a classroom I would love to be in as a student or a
Hmm.
teacher.
Yeah,
So great
yeah.
call. Thank you for that.
Thank
Hmm.
you so much for coming today, Danae. We love your
Absolutely.
content and we love learning from you and we loved learning with you today. And we're so excited for our listeners to connect with you. Thank you again. And where can our listeners connect with you?
Yes. So on Instagram, Threads, and TikTok, and Substack, I am at Janae Marable. My website is janaemarable.com.
Great. We'll put all of that below in the caption and information
Uh-huh.
below. But thank you again so much, Danae, for coming. And stay tuned,
Thank you for
listeners, for our
having
next
me.
incredible guest. Wishing everyone a day of peace and learning and light. Take care.
Thank you. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Everything is Learning. If you loved this episode, share it, subscribe to hear more awesome content, and let's keep the conversation going. Stay curious and keep learning. We'll catch you next time.